Today, the sky speaks not of encounters, it speaks of spaces, not the distance that separates, but the space that defines. It speaks of that second of silence between a question and the answer, of the gap between a glance and its turning away, of the almost imperceptible pause before a touch, or the hesitation that postpones a departure. We spend our entire lives focused on what is said, what is done, what is visible. But what if the true story is told in the intervals? What if the soul communicates not through sound, but through the quality of the silence it holds? Sometimes that is where the truth resides. This is not a guide on how to fix what is broken. It is an invitation to sit with what is quiet, to observe without judgment the boundaries that are revealed, the walls that show themselves, and the spaces that ask to be honored, both in ourselves and in those we love. Today, the energy invites us to a more honest form of intimacy, one that does not fear the silence. Before we dive deeper into this observation, a small pact of presence. Use the space below as a journal of intentions. Write in the comments, I listen to what the silence wants to say. In our mythology of love, we were taught to desire fusion, the union of two souls into one, a state of intimacy so complete that all borders dissolve. It is a beautiful ideal, but an incomplete one, because it forgets a fundamental truth of both physics and the soul. For energy to flow, there must be space. For light to enter, there must be a window. The archetypal forces of love and structure, of connection and reality, do not hate each other. They dance a dance of opposites, reminding us that loving is not only the act of coming closer, but also the wisdom of accepting the other's boundary and our own. Today, the energy in the air asks for a pause, a distancing. It is not something that can be forced or even named, but perhaps you feel it, a sudden need for quiet, a desire to be in your own energy field without the influence of anyone else, even the one you love most. Conversations may seem shorter, touch less frequent. There might be a subtle withdrawal, a longing for a silent room, a solitary walk. Our first reaction, conditioned by fear, is to interpret this space as a problem, a sign that love is diminishing, that something is wrong. But today's lesson invites us to a deeper interpretation. What if this space is not a symptom of the illness, but the beginning of the cure? It is crucial to distinguish between the silence that hurts and the silence that heals. The first is a weapon, the silent treatment, the wall built with anger and resentment, an empty space filled with unspoken accusations. That silence is an absence. What today's energy proposes is the opposite, a sacred space, a silent presence. It is not punishment, it is a fallow field. It is space to listen to what still hurts and has not had time to be understood. It is an invitation for each soul to return to its own inner sanctuary, not to pull away from the other, but to tend to its own garden. It is the chance to process, to feel, to understand, without the pressure of having to explain. Some connections, in order to survive, need to breathe. Love, to deepen, needs moments when it is not performed, but simply felt in its quietest essence. Today's distance is not the harbinger of the end. It is the mature recognition that two whole people create a much stronger love than two halves desperately trying to complete each other. And sometimes, to feel whole again, one must first be alone. Honor this need in yourself and in the other. Hold the space with respect, not with fear. It is in this silence that love can take the breath it needs for its next and most authentic expression. In our emotional lexicon, few words carry as much weight as loneliness. It echoes with the ghost of rejection, of being forgotten. But today, The energy invites us to a re-education of the soul. Today, it is necessary to make the most important of distinctions. Do not confuse solitude with abandonment. Abandonment is a wound. It is a space defined by someone's absence. It is the void that hurts, the feeling of being left behind. The solitude that the heavens propose today, however, is not a void, but a fullness. It is a space defined by your own total presence. It is not a wound. It is a remedy. The isolation that this day brings is medicinal. Think of it as a return to your own axis. When we are in an intimate connection, our energies intertwine, dance, and mix. It is a beautiful and natural process. But over time, we can begin to lose clarity on where we end and the other begins. Our moods influence each other. Our desires become entangled. Our needs become negotiated. The space that presents itself today is an act of energetic purification. It is the chance to allow your auric field to re-establish itself in its original form, to feel your own musical note again, without the harmony or dissonance of the other's note. It is the moment when the needle of your internal compass, which may have been trembling due to other magnetic influences, can finally quiet down and point once more to your true north. For this to happen, the universe today gently removes the other from the equation. It does so not to punish you, but to give you a priceless gift, the chance to remember who you are without needing a mirror. In our relationships, we constantly see ourselves through the eyes of the other. We are the reflection of their expectations, their perceptions, the role we play in their lives. But today, without that mirror, who are you? What emerges in the silence? What feelings, desires, and truths are uniquely yours, unfiltered by the need to please, to appease, or to connect? This is a process of rediscovery, of stripping away relational identities to find your sovereign core. That is why being alone today is an act of self-love under construction. It is the act of giving yourself the presence and attention that you so often offer freely to others. It is learning to self-regulate, to comfort yourself, to validate yourself. And this act, far from being a threat to the connection, is what makes it stronger. Because when you return to the shared space, you will not do so from a place of need or emptiness, but from a place of wholeness, ready to meet the other as an equally whole being. Today's solitude is not preparing you for the end of love, but for its most authentic beginning. We are creatures of language. We have learned to trust words as the primary vehicles of truth, to believe that if something wasn't said, it isn't real. We spend hours analyzing sentences, dissecting tone, looking for hidden meanings in syntax. But we forget a much older, more visceral and infinitely more honest language, the language of the body. There are pains that do not ask for an articulated apology, they ask for a silent understanding. There are truths that do not seek a debate, they seek a safe space to simply exist. And today it is very likely that your body will speak much louder and with much more clarity than your mouth. You may feel it right now, a subtle shift in your physiology, a tension in your shoulders, not from stress, but from containment, a lump in your throat, not from unspoken words, but from emotions that do not yet have a name. The heart may feel more guarded, more closed, as if it were protecting something precious and fragile. Your speech may become more restrained, your answers shorter, not out of anger, but out of a need to conserve energy, not to pour yourself out unnecessarily. Your own body might feel like a house where the windows have been closed and the curtains drawn, not to keep others out, but to keep your own light in. Our instinctive reaction, trained by society, is to fight against this. It is to force a smile when the heart is heavy, It is to fill the silence with small talk when the soul longs for stillness. It is to try to relax the tension with distractions. We see these bodily responses as symptoms of a problem, as something to be corrected, to be overcome. But today's energy asks us to consider a radically different perspective. What if this is not a glitch in the system? What if it is the system itself, functioning with perfect integrity? Do not fight against it. Honor what your skin is saying. The silence your body is asking for today is not a void. It is a form of primordial honesty. The body does not know how to lie. It doesn't care about social conventions. It isn't afraid of seeming rude or distant. When it closes off, it is not rejecting the world. It is processing a truth. It is digesting an experience, healing a wound, integrating a lesson at a cellular level long before your conscious mind has the words to describe it. To fight against this process is to interrupt the sacred work of your own healing. It's like shaking someone who is in a deep and restorative sleep. Allow yourself to be contained. Allow your energy to withdraw. If a hug feels like too much today, honor that. If a deep conversation seems impossible, honor that. This withdrawal is not an act of coldness, but of wisdom. It is your body saying, I need time. I need space. What is happening inside me right now is too important to be translated into hasty words. Trust this wisdom. Silence is the oldest form of honesty there is. And by allowing your body to be honest, without apology, you are offering yourself and those around you the gift of an authenticity that no beautiful words could ever match. Today's energy, in its austere wisdom, has a way of making the invisible visible. And one of the structures it most likes to illuminate are the walls we have built around our hearts. We all have them. They are silent monuments to our past wounds, erected brick by brick with each disillusionment, each betrayal, each moment our vulnerability was not honored. We built them for a noble and necessary reason: to protect ourselves, to ensure that the pain that once devastated us does not find its way back. And yet, over time, the fortress that protects us can become the prison that isolates us. Today, we are invited to inspect these walls, not to tear them down with violence, but to understand them with compassion and perhaps to transform them into something more functional, more conscious. It is here that we need to learn the crucial difference between a wall and a boundary. A wall is a reactive structure, built from fear. It is high, impenetrable, and has no gates. It screams, "Do not approach," to the entire world without distinction. A wall keeps the pain out, but it also prevents love from getting in. It condemns us to a lonely safety. A boundary, on the other hand, is a conscious creation designed from self-love. It is not a wall, but perhaps an elegant fence with a well-defined gate. A boundary does not say stay away. It says, this is the edge of my sacred space. To enter, please ring the bell, announce your intention, and respect the rules of the house. A boundary does not isolate. It defines. It allows us to interact with the world from a place of safety and sovereignty instead of fear and reactivity. Today's energy tests your emotional boundaries. After you have erected a new and healthy boundary, the universe often sends a small stress test to see if it holds firm. And it is in this moment that the questions become clear. Do you know how to say no with love? A no that doesn't attack, but that honors your need? A no that says, I love myself enough to protect my peace right now? And, just as importantly, do you know how to be firm without being cold? Firmness is the calm, unshakable energy of your boundary. Coldness is the reactive, fearful energy of your wall. To be firm is to say, with kindness and without needing to justify, I understand your request, but my answer is no. To be cold is to shut down, to punish with silence, to use distance as a weapon. This is the balance the heavens ask of us today, firmness without rigidity. The walls you built served a purpose. Thank them for the protection they gave you. But perhaps today is the day to begin transforming them, to install a gate, to learn to use it with discernment, to realize that true safety does not come from closing yourself off to the world, but from becoming so secure in your own space that you can afford to consciously choose who you let in. We have been fed a diet of fairy tales, where love is measured by the intensity of passion, the constancy of presence, and the absence of conflict. We learned to see love as a perpetual sun, and any shadow, any passing cloud, is seen as a harbinger of the end. But the truth, especially the truth that the heavens tell us today, is much more complex and infinitely more resilient. Real love is not what always says yes. The love that always says yes is often a frightened love, a love that fears conflict, that fears the honesty that might create a momentary distance. It is a love that walks on tiptoes, afraid of waking the ghosts of abandonment. Mature love, the love that today's energy invites us to cultivate, is defined by a different metric. It is not measured on sunny days, but in how it navigates the silent storm. It is what sustains distance, respects time, and does not implode in the face of discomfort. It is a love that has the courage to allow for space, that has the strength to endure uncertainty, that has the wisdom to understand that not all silence is an absence. Sometimes, silence is the very raw material of transformation. That is why today's invitation is this. If someone or something you love seems cold, do not run away. Observe. Our first reaction, born from the wound of the inner child, is panic. We feel the other's distance and immediately translate it as a personal rejection. What did I do wrong? Do they not love me anymore? I need to fix this now. This panic leads us to push, to demand, to question. We knock on the closed door, demanding that it open, without realizing that with each knock, we are only disturbing the sacred work happening on the other side. The alternative, the path of real love, is to sit outside the door. It is to light our own candle, not to illuminate the other's room, but to keep our own flame burning. It is to offer a silent, steady presence that communicates without words. I am here. I am not going anywhere. I respect your process. I trust in us. Herein lies the most beautiful metaphor for today's energy, the ice that covers the heart. Whether it is yours or someone else's, sometimes protects the gold that is still melting inside. Think about it. The gold of our soul, our deepest vulnerability, our most authentic truth, our ability to love in a new way, is undergoing an alchemical process. It is being melted by the fire of experience, purified of its impurities. This is an immensely delicate and sacred process, and instinctively, the soul creates a protective layer of ice around itself so that this transformation can occur in safety. This layer of ice is the apparent coldness, the distance, the silence. It is not an attack, it is a cocoon. The test of real love is this. When we are faced with another's ice, do we try to break it with the hammer of our insecurities and demands, or do we have the patience and wisdom to offer the gentle, constant warmth of our presence, allowing the ice to melt in its own time, revealing the newly forged gold that was being protected? The love that learns to respect the other's ice is the love that will be worthy of receiving their gold. It is a love built on the unshakable foundation of respect for each soul's individual journey. We have reached the end of this day of introspection, a point of silent clarity. All the experiences we have navigated so far, the recognition of boundaries, the healing in solitude, listening to the body's language, redefining our frontiers, and the test of mature love, were not isolated events. They were, in fact, parts of a single powerful process, a great sorting. Today's energy, in its essence, functions as a relentless filter of truth. It doesn't add anything to your life. Instead, it subtracts everything that is superfluous, everything that is illusory, everything that holds no real weight. After the test, only the essential survives. The promise of this transit is not that of a happy ending, but rather that of an honest one. And in the grand scheme of the soul, honesty is the only foundation upon which happiness can be truly built. To understand this process, think of silence not as an absence, but as an active element, a universal solvent of the soul. Imagine that our lives and our connections are complex structures built from a variety of materials. In the noise of daily life, it is often difficult to distinguish between the two. Everything seems solid. Everything seems to be part of the same structure. The silence that today's energy offers us is the act of immersing this entire structure in this solvent of truth. And it is here that the lesson becomes simple and relentless. What is real withstands the silence. A connection built on the rock of truth does not fear the void. For it, silence is not a threat, but a deepening. It is the comfort of being together without the need to fill the space. It is the intimacy that exists in a look, in a shared breath, in the simple fact of knowing one is present for the other, even at a distance. When immersed in the solvent of silence, this structure not only remains intact, but it emerges cleaner, brighter, purified of any debris from misunderstandings or projections. Its solidity is confirmed, and what dissolves in the silence was already absence disguised as presence. This is the most painful revelation, but also the most liberating one. The connections that depend on constant noise to survive, on distraction, on drama, on incessant conversation, on continuous validation, reveal their fragility the moment the noise ceases. Silence exposes their lack of substance. It reveals that perhaps what united them was not a resonance of souls, but a mutual pact to avoid the void, both external and internal. The structure that seems so real falls apart, not because the silence destroyed it, but because it simply revealed the truth that it was made of smoke and mirrors. The absence that is felt when the silence arrives was not created by the silence. It was only revealed by it. The fear we have of a day like today is the fear of this dissolution. The fear that if we become quiet enough, we might discover that we are alone, that the structures we took for granted are not real. And the final test of courage is to be willing to discover the truth, whatever it may be. It is to have more loyalty to reality than to illusion, even if the illusion is more comfortable. Because the universe's promise is this: you will never be left with the void. The space that is freed by the dissolution of what is false is immediately filled by the overwhelming presence of what is real, your own unshakable presence, and the presence of those who, having been immersed in the same silence, remain standing by your side, shining with the quiet strength of authenticity. What remains after today is your true foundation, and from there, and only from there, can the real construction begin. The day ends, but the clarity it brought remains. Today's lesson was not about endings, but about foundations, about the austere beauty of a love that needs no noise to prove itself, that finds its strength not in fusion, but in the sacred respect for the spaces that exist between two souls. This is a love that breathes, a love that allows, a love that has the courage to be real instead of perfect. It is a love that does not fear winter, for it knows that it is in withdrawal, that the roots deepen, preparing for the spring that will inevitably come. If this video brought you clarity on the kind of love you are ready to build and live. Anchor that perception. Like this video as an act of acknowledging your own emotional maturity. Share it with someone who is also learning to love in a truer, quieter, stronger way. And to seal this inner journey, use the power of your declaration. Go to the comments and write the words that define your new choice. I choose the love that withstands the silence. Don't forget to subscribe. There is much wisdom in the silent spaces, and we will continue to learn how to listen to them together.